Here. Welcome back to those who joined us yesterday at the last session. We are kicking things off today with another Back to School Summit session, but this time with a focus on families, which is really exciting. We are joined today by Alex and Tasneem Damji, who specializes in academic and career coaching with students. I'm really excited to pass it over to both of them so they could share a bit about their expertise, also can be achieved in Spaces EDU in the platform. Go ahead, Alex. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. My name is Alex, Alexandre, if you're able to pronounce the DRE at the end in French, Alexandre Bonin. I work for Spacedio and I'm very happy to be here along with Tasneem, who will start the conversation. We are organized in kind of around 20 minutes. Tasneem, regarding the process of how to integrate more families into the discussion for the learning process of the students and bridging the gap between school and home. And then I will show for about 20 minutes also a demo of how it is possible on Spaces EDU to do so. And we'll have at the end some time to answer questions, of course, any questions that you may have. So without further ado, I'll let Tasneem introduce herself.
Great. Thank you very much, Alex. Hello, everyone. My name is Tasneem Damji, and I'm really glad to be spending this time with you right before you head into the classroom. So I totally appreciate all of you being here right at the end of your summer. And before we get into the ideas that we're going to talk about today, I want to tell you a little bit about why this topic matters to me, because it really comes from every sides of it. I spent quite a number of years as a high school teacher, so I know exactly what it feels like to write a thoughtful message home, to really try to reach a family, and to hear nothing back. And I know how discouraging that can feel when you're already stretched thin. I'm also a parent. I have one child who just graduated high school here in BC, where I am, and one who's about to start grade four. So I've sat on the other side of that relationship as well as the parent staring at a message from school, wanting to help, but not always sure how to do so. And in my work, I consult with school districts in British Columbia on their strategic plans. And a big part of that has been sitting down with teachers and with parents in focus group discussions and really listening to what's getting in the way of families and schools working together. And so here's what I've learned from all three vantage points is that everyone cares. Teachers care deeply, and so do families, but everyone is stretched, and family engagement can quietly become one more thing on an already full plate. So, my goal today is simple to make family engagement feel lighter, not heavier for both sides. So, let's go to the next slide, Alex. So, here's what I want you to walk away with today. By the end of our time together, you'll be able to do three things. Help families see their child's growth beyond just grades. Use everyday student work to spark real conversations at home. And put one small weekly routine in place that turns families into genuine learning partners. And the best part, everything I'm going to show you today takes 5 minutes or less. Nothing here is going to add substantially to your workload, and that's a promise I'll keep coming back to. So we'll get to the next slide. So let me start with a moment I think a lot of us know. I'd love to a quick show of hands in the chat or type yes if you've ever sent a thoughtful message home to a family and heard absolutely nothing back. I'm not even sure if I can read the chats here. Okay, someone just put 100%. So, and yes, so that really, really resonates. Didn't need any time to think about that, did you? Um, so here's what I want to gently offer. Um, that silence is almost never a lack of caring. More often, it's busyness. It's uncertainty about how to respond. Sometimes it's a family for whom being involved in school this way is completely new. When we assume the best about the family on the other end, everything about how we communicate softens. And that's really where today begins. It's really understanding the point of view from the family side. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So the truth is, everyone is doing their best with too little time. On your side, as educators, you're juggling large classes, endless demands, so many needs in the classroom, and communication that often goes unanswered. But families are stretched too. Some of you might be parents as well with kids in the school system, so you know. Many parents and families are managing work, multiple kids, and for some, home and school have always felt like two separate worlds. So I want us to picture that parent or that family member on the other end, tired, well-meaning, maybe never asked to do this before. Everything I'm sharing today is designed to be sustainable for both sides of that relationship. Okay, and that's why it can work. So let's go to the next slide. So here's my promise to you. You're going to leave today with 3 simple strategies, and you'll be able to use every one of them in the first week of school. Each one takes 5 minutes or less. Oh no, we're back at that. Yeah.
My bad, you're good.
We're not reinventing your practice, and we're definitely not adding a lot more to your plate. Just 3 small, doable shifts. So let me show you how that framework looks like. So we'll go to the next slide. So I call it the Notice, Talk, Sustain framework. And it's about helping families see the learning, not just the grade. Talk is about letting a piece of student work start the conversation. Sorry, notice is about helping families see the learning, not just the grade. Talk is about letting a piece of student work start the conversation. And sustain is about building one small routine that actually lasts. It works at every grade level and in every subject, which is what makes it easy to remember and use. And to keep it concrete, what I'm going to do is walk all 3 of these parts of the framework through with one same real example during this session. So let's go on to the next slide so we can see that example. So here's the example that I'll come back to all session. This is a student writing about their favorite place. On the left is the first draft. My favorite place is Grandma's house. It is fun. I like going there. And here's the revision. My favorite place is Grandma's house. Her kitchen always smells like cardamom, and she lets me help roll the dough. I like going there because I never feel rushed. So I just want you to sit with the difference for a second. Just hold on to it and we'll keep coming back to it. Okay? Okay, so let's start working through the framework with this. So we'll go to the next slide. So let's look at the first strategy. No, the previous one. The notice, yeah. Let's look at the first part of this strategy, which is notice. Here's the thing, families default to grades because no one has ever shown them what else to look for. And that is completely a solvable problem. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So what we do is we give them a list. We can teach families to look for effort, improvement, persistence, curiosity, problem solving, and reflection. These are the signs that learning is actually happening. Okay, so let's make this real. In the chat, drop one thing you'd love a family to notice in your students' work. One of these things. Persistence. Okay. Yes, great skill to keep throughout your life. Improvement. We want to show parents improvement. Excellent. Okay, wonderful. So we're going to go through some of this because when families know what to look for, they can support learning without piling on pressure. And that changes everything about how it feels at home to have these conversations. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So let's go back to our example and practice noticing. Okay, the easy thing to say is she fixed her spelling. But look closer. She went back and revised her work. And that's a real great skill. She added the senses, the smell of cardamom, the feeling of not being rushed. And that last line is reflection. She's telling us why this matters to her. None of this shows up in a grade, but all of it is growth. And this works in any subject. A math problem with a crossed out first try and a corrected second one tells the same story. She caught her own mistake and tried a different way instead of giving up. Okay, let's look at the next stage in this framework. So the next slide, please. So that brings us to the second strategy, which is talk. We all know how a school gets a one-word answer. Fine. But a piece of work sitting in front of both of them gets a real conversation. So let's go to the next slide. When we just report results, the grade or the score, the conversation ends. But when we show and share the actual work, the conversation starts. The artifact does the heavy lifting. That seeing that actual work that the student does is really what gets this started. So this is where the portfolio in Spaces EDU that Alex will go through later is going to be so powerful. The work is already there, ready to talk about, so the family doesn't have to go looking for it. The point I want you to hold on to is simply this. The right tool takes the friction and the time and the effort out of this. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And when you've got that piece of work in front of you, here are 3 questions any adult can ask. And no curriculum knowledge is required. They can ask, what made you decide to add that part? Or which draft do you like better and what changed your mind? Or what was the tricky part of making it better? Notice that a parent doesn't need to know the lesson to ask any of these questions. Okay. So let's go to the next slide, which is the last strategy. And it's the one that makes all of this stick, and that's sustain. Because partnership grows through consistency, not intensity. Okay, we can say this about lots of aspects of our life too. The trap is going all in for 2 weeks and then burning out. What I really want to talk about is how can you sustain those simple routines throughout the school year? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So instead, pick one small routine and keep it. Maybe it's one weekly reflection prompt families can peek at. Maybe it's one sentence of context posted with a piece of work. Maybe it's one notice this prompt a week. And here's the math that makes this all real. Your part is one sentence a week. The family's part is 5 minutes and one good question. That's it. So let's commit. In the chat, I want you to type the one routine that you will actually try. What makes sense to you and your classroom? What one routine will you try? Okay, one weekly reflection prompt. Perfect. Now say that out loud, write it down, and try that once a week for your students. Okay, goal setting. Okay. Pavandeep, can you maybe go tell me a little bit more? What do you mean goal setting? Is that goal setting every week? Is that at the beginning of the week? Is that something you want parents to help their students with? I'll just how they are doing in achieving it. So maybe at the beginning of the week saying this is what we're going to do, and then the question at the end of the week is uh, did they achieve it and how they achieved it? If they didn't, how could they have? Like be very specific, right? But I also don't want it to be so much work on your part. Okay. So try to make it manageable for you. Okay. Okay. One goal can take even a month to do. So it might be a monthly goal. Exactly. And maybe you have a weekly question to help them at the end of the month look to see if they actually did achieve that goal. Okay, because the goal for you and for all of you is to make this sustainable. I know we're talking about one student. You have many students in the classroom and many classes. So I want to make sure that this is achievable. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so say it out loud, write it down what you're going to do. Okay. And then let's go to the last slide, which for my part, we're going to really just recap this so that it really stays in your mind as you leave this session and go into your classrooms. Um, so this is three small shifts. Notice what actually matters. Let the work start the talk. Okay, whether it's an essay or it's a poster, it's a math problem, um, a journal entry, anything like that. And keep one small routine going. Keeping that routine going and also letting parents know what you'll be doing so they know what to expect. I mean, this is perfect timing at the beginning of the year to let them know what you'll be doing with Spaces EDU and make it really simple for them to engage. Okay, and so you're not going to walk away empty-handed. I've created a simple guide called Being a Learning Partner that you can share directly with your families. Okay, and so my hope is that you close your laptop today feeling relief, that you got something simple that you can actually use when school starts. Um, and I'm now going to hand it over to Alex to show how you can do some of this in Spaces EDU.
Thank you very much, Tasneem. Notice, doc, and sustain. To me, it's such a simple frame, and I think honestly, that's exactly why it works. So now I want to show you what that actually looks like when it's not on slide, but in let's say a real demo with Victor, Dash, and Bob. So a teacher, one student, and one family member on a random Tuesday, let's say. That's the whole point here. This only works when all three are actually in it together. So, without further ado, let's meet the incredible Dash that we have here on screen. A grade 6 student. And so after an incredible login to Space EasyEdu, whether from a computer or with a tablet on the app, Dash arrives on the Space EasyEdu dashboard and simply checks what's new. He can easily go on the notification button over there and click on the notification to go straight to the material. But he also likes to go maybe to the different classes that he has access to. Let's check out Mrs. NJ's class over there. He goes into his class and he knows that his teacher, Victor Novak, left him feedback on, let's say, the ecosystem project that he submitted. So for that, he will go simply to his learning space over here. Clicking on it and checking the different material. So he got to become quickly confident with this area, thanks to the clear description of the space filled with the teacher's intentions and key documentation. So notice what's sitting right here on this post, above the comment itself. Not a percentage, not a letter grade, but a proficiency scale in the teacher's own language. The exact thing Tasnim just told us to look past the grade for. And let's say look at the feedback itself when we click on the multimedia activity submitted here. This comment here is clear, constructed feedback. It's not just good job from the teacher. It is actually specific what Dash did well and one honest, doable next step. That is Notice, built right into the workflow. The teacher is not doing any extra work here. This is their job. Space EasyEdu just makes it visible, permanent, and actionable later on in the journey, instead of a comment in the margin of a paper that most likely would go into a backpack and would potentially disappear. So here's something small but important. Dash here can reflect on that, but he doesn't have to write a whole paragraph back. He can just, talk and start recording. 30 seconds in his own voice, engaging directly with the feedback. For an 11-year-old, that's often the difference between a real reflection and a simple shrug. So low friction both ways. That is the 5 minutes or less promise. This time from the student's side, actually. So then Dash will just simply look at maybe the class space because he knows there's something important that can be over there. So just going out from this activity, away from this one-on-one space, back to the class dashboard over there, and simply entering into the class space. As you know, class, a more collaborative area with the same teacher opportunity of clear guidance on top of the wall. So Dash knows he's not by himself on this space when he checks the left banner. He sees all his actually classmates from this specific class. So he scrolls down and see a post made by the teacher, Monsieur Novak himself. And so Monsieur Novak is inviting actually the whole class to do something. Look back at your year and reflect. This is actually Victor Novak one sustainable routine, Tasnim's third strategy in action. Not a new assignment, not extra grading for the teacher, just one prompt posted once to everyone. So inviting to just check past work, maybe even further if you have older posts, wink, wink. instant result on the student side, Dash's side. He will simply start scrolling back to his learning one-on-one space. And so clicking back to this one-on-one space where we had the activity before that he reflected upon with multimedia, and just diving back into the past. So Dash just scroll back through his own post to find a piece that would trigger his curiosity. And watch what happens here. He is doing the noticing now. He's not being told he's improved. He's actually seeing it. A story about falling at soccer, a persuasive essay, or maybe that basketball game with all the sound effects. So this is the moment I want you to sit with. This is what Tasneem meant when she said the artifact does the heavy lifting. Nobody has to convince Dash that he's grown. The evidence is just right here, right there, in his own words, across multiple terms. So, Dash could have reflected on any of these well-documented posts with clear constructive feedback that you see right now on the screen. And surely he does it subconsciously, I guess, as he goes through the artifacts. But Dash is incredible. So he wants to impress his teacher. And so after all, a superhero, we don't expect anything else but that from a superhero to go above and beyond. I think I'm stealing this line from Buzz Lightyear and not the Incredible Family, but that's okay. So Dash will decide to actually go out of this specific one-on-one space. Actually go out of this specific class back to the little house over there, to the entire school. Okay? And there is a button that Dash has that teachers do not. He dives into all class posts. So for kids having the chance to use SpaceEdu for a long time, this you see here is a gold mine because he can start filtering back through archived classes, past classes, and check also from time to time the different artifact of maybe years ago, years he's not even in anymore. So we have a kid here genuinely playing with his own story, his own history, if I may, because the platform makes that possible instead of buried in a filing cabinet somewhere. So he lands on this piece of reading over there. Feedback from 3 years ago. 3 years ago about his reading. Still choppy, with more practice, his fluency will improve. So we have a constructive feedback here and the artifact itself. So what a brilliant opportunity to self-assess your past self, to reflect on your present skills, and to realize how far you have come and how far you can go. So he can simply copy that post straight into his reflection today. So copying this post gently and bringing this back to an existing class, Miss NJ's class, to the appropriate space, reflection. I remember Mr. Novak instructions on that. And so he can reflect on the reading audio that he had there and just change and tweak a bit the past post over there. Simple, easy, just writing that. Reflecting, advice to past me, what I'm excited about for next year. Beautiful piece of reflection, legitimized with a real feedback, a real artifact of learning from 3 years ago. So let's say reading that now feels kind of weird. I just kept practicing anyway, and now I actually really like reading and writing stories. That is the aha moment, not a grade going from a C to an A, but a kid in his own words, seeing 3 years of who he used to be and recognizing himself in it. You cannot manufacture this with a report card. No, you can only make it findable from a computer, a tablet, or a phone. That was the little introduction to the student side. But we talk also about families, and families are extremely important in that process. So anybody knows the name of Dash's dad? I'm just checking on Pixar knowledge right now. Feel free in the chat. If you know the answer, don't ask AI or Google. Buzz. Yeah, that's Pixar family, but not the specific movie. But it's the first letter is good. The first letter is correct. Let's meet Dash's dad. I call Bob to the place. Okay, so let's see how Bob has to say about what Bob has to say about that. I want to be honest with you about Bob here because he is every family in this room's reality. He is busy. He has to save the world every day. He's not writing essays back. So watch what partnership actually looks like for a stretched parent here. Okay, so you see the same structure that is on the kids, on the student side, just a few different buttons, of course. He can quickly see which of his kids are in different classes. Let's say in the Fab 4, we have Nia and Dash. And in the Little Explorer, we have again Nia and Dash. I'm sure there's another kid somewhere. Dash. Okay, fair enough. We'll go to the NGS class that we have been working on right now. And he can actually click directly, busy, remember, on the red button, new notification on the NGS class, the little bell, and go straight to the piece of material from the notification panel. Simple. I just want to show you actually how it looks like going into the class. Okay, we see exactly the same type of architecture with what the teacher allowed him to see, depending on the visibility aspects. So he can just actually go into the learning space of Dash and he sees only, of course, his different kids' works and artifacts. And so he sees actually the reflection of Dash on the recent activity being posted. So view more and can simply also interact with that piece here and comment simply over there. So why not love this one? Didn't realize he'd noticed the leaf thing your mom does every fall. Might have to ask that squirrel question ourselves this weekend. By the way, here's me with a scroll when I was a kid. Oh, we need proof now. Okay. So I guess we're just going to share a piece of multimedia right away, as we can simply do by hopla sliding. Appreciate Bob's youth. Everybody was young at some point in his life, even the squirrel himself. Multimedia simply posted, simply reacted, and creating this type of interaction. So quick, warm, present, 10 seconds, but he saw it and he turned it into something they will actually do together this weekend. That's a commitment right there. Then also on the notification, he saw, Bob, that there was a message from the teacher. So going simply to the message tab on the top here. Oh yeah, okay. Victor Novak is writing to Bob. And so Bob can simply react to that message and of course answer the appropriate answer to acknowledge. Okay. So that's private thread with Teacher Novak. Teacher Novak had flagged a PDF worth discussing together. Okay. And so Bob is confirming in 2 sentences, simply, no essay needed. The platform already did the work of surfacing what mattered. And so then this other piece of reflection we can look for and act upon. So let's pretend now Bob is on a phone. And so his incredibly big fingers will not allow him to text properly, you know? So no problem with that. Families too can use multimedia, as you have seen with the photo that has been uploaded. So reflection, and he can see the reflection of Dash from 3 years ago. Amazing. So too big the fingers to text. Fair enough. Let's record again. There we go. So let's say, for example, proud of you, bud. I remember those early reading nights. You've come a long way. It hits me that we lost track of doing that together now that you're into sports and everything else. So how about you read me one page of your soccer magazine once a week? I read like that. Oof, simple, shared. Maybe he's in the bus. Maybe he's in a rocket ship to go save the world from the moon. I don't know. But well, I don't know if there's Wi-Fi. Oh, well, that would be a question for the astronauts. Anyway, we lost track of doing that together. Let's read one page of your soccer magazine once a week together. That right here, it is sustain. Born in real time, out of an actual feeling, not a routine that Bob was told to adopt. He read his son's own reflection, and it moved him into proposing the 5-minute habit himself. That is the whole session here, happening organically in under a minute of scrolling. So, notice, talk, and sustain. We just watched all three happen. A teacher noticing skills instead of spelling, a piece of work starting a real conversation instead of how was school, and a father inventing his own 5-minute routine because his son's own words moved him to from a piece of reflection of reading of 3 years ago. That's the thing I want you to live with. This is not three separate tools bolted together. It's one ongoing thread between a student, a family, and a teacher. Three energies genuinely in it together all year. And that's what Space Edu is actually for. I would just like to end this demo with a real world comment from a Space Edu teacher and Space Edu mother. So let's see if I can make the subtitles work, but in case, as you can see, I've translated that for you. Because yes, it's from the French-speaking world. Yeah, I'm not sure it's gonna work this one, but that's fine. I'll just follow my arrow, as we go through the text of this beautiful, real piece of feedback.
Allô, c'est encore moi. Donc, à l'école NDA, je porte plusieurs chapeaux, dont celui de maman d'une cocotte de 5 ans au jardin. Donc, depuis qu'elle est à la maternelle, je reçois ses preuves d'apprentissage presque à chaque jour, parfois même quelques fois par jour. Et ça fait vraiment sourire mon cœur de maman. Mon mari et ses grands-parents les reçoivent également. Souvent, quand on demande à un enfant, tu sais, le soir, « Ah, qu'est-ce que tu as fait aujourd'hui? » Mais en tout cas, moi, chez nous, c'est rien. J'ai rien appris aujourd'hui. Donc, puis, on le sait que c'est le contraire de ça, là. Mais grâce à Espace Édu, on voit ses découvertes, on voit ses apprentissages, on voit ses petites fiertés directement sur nos téléphones au cours de notre journée. Je vous partage un petit moment cocasse. Donc, récemment, ma fille, elle a publié une phrase qu'elle a écrite sur un tableau blanc effaçable, qui aurait disparu sinon, là. Sa phrase était « Le bonhomme de neige a 2 grosses boules ». Instantanément, ses grands-parents au Portugal et au Mexique l'ont reçu aussi. On peut imaginer la réaction. Les fous rires ont été garantis. En tout cas, comme maman, j'adore ça.
Voilà, merci Annick Brunet-Konig for this beautiful piece of feedback that warmed my heart when I heard it the first time and also made me crack a good laugh. Do we have any piece of questions, any piece of reflection from what you saw and the presentation of Tasnim and the demo recently? We are happy to to answer any questions you may have in the chat or any comment. Feel free.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to say thank you, Alex, for showing us how that partnership can actually come to life in Spaces EDU. That was a great way to really showcase how you can apply the tool with families and truly engage them from the very beginning of the year.
Thank you. We have a comment on the chat. It is difficult for parents with no English. Indeed, the platform is in both languages, English and French. We have also Google Translate devices to translate the different piece of artifact in any languages you want. I don't know if Tasnim, you had any questions like this on how to engage to the best of the potential with the school when English is not a comfort zone.
Yeah, that's a really good question because I think that is the majority of a big majority of the parents right now who for whom English is not their first language or familiar with. I really like the audio part of this because I wonder if there is a way, and I think Tatiana put something here, but I wonder if there's a way where a parent can respond in their own language in audio, and somehow they're sure it can be downloaded or something to then for the teacher to use some kind of AI or some tool to understand what that audio said. So the parent is still engaging. And yes, it means the teacher needs to find out what did the parent say, but at least the parent is not the one doing that work, that they're able to use their own language. If they write something, of course, Google Translate or any other software can help a teacher understand what the parent said. So the parent actually doesn't have to write or speak in English. I think we need to make this very inclusive and accessible. And if the teacher can find, and possibly there are some tools that Spaces EDU can share, ways to translate what has been said in audio, what has been said in text, that can help encourage parents to respond and to engage. So I think let's let them use their own language. The teachers can find and use the platforms to translate, and the teacher can respond in English, and the parent can respond in their own language. I think that really is the best of both worlds.
Thank you, Tasnim. Definitely. Full agree with that. And yes, Tatiana said that she would share some resources on the follow-up email. So thank you, Tatiana, for that. Any other comment or questions you may have? Feel free.
I'd love to hear like how someone in the audience is thinking about how they might want to use this framework and the platform in their classroom because we've got some time. I think it is such a valuable time before school starts to think about how do you want to use this. So if anyone wants to share what's going on in their mind, it doesn't need to be fully fledged or whatnot, but we can kind of talk that through.
I just going to give some time to folks to think about their answers, but I think the notice prompts are going to be really useful in Spaces EDU, just having them somewhere, whether that's attached in the space description or just including them in the post every time you share an evidence of learning, to remind parents that they can actually ask those questions. In fact, they should when they're at the dinner table or, on those car rides home, as you like to call them, Tasneem, the car conversations. But just having those handy as a reminder to have those conversations would be really useful.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up those car conversations because it came up in another session I did with your sister in crime, my blueprint, which is, um, what I have noticed with my own kids as well, and with other families that I work with, is that these conversations don't have happen at the dinner table where you're sitting across from each other and having a conversation. Usually kids, and I had my daughter recently do that to me. She's like, "Why are we talking about this? Or why are you asking me these questions?" But when you're walking to school, with your kid, or you're in the car off to soccer practice, or at a park, or somewhere that is just less that's just much more casual, and you have these conversations, those can be really powerful. So I think as teachers, probably you have at the beginning of the school year, you will have a meet the parent night where it's not, uh, um, a meet the teacher night, but like going over, their student, but it's just at the beginning, you can say, these are the kinds of things you can do with your kids, have these kinds of conversations, but have them in natural settings. I love the car because you kind of have to sit there and there's nothing else to do but talk. And it can be 5 minutes. It doesn't need to be a long, drawn out conversation. And in fact, those are so much better. So I would highly encourage at the beginning of the school year, when you do meet the parents, give them some ways in which they can have these conversations with their students.
There's also a really great piece of advice from Natalie in the chat about just sharing quick good news updates with families. Like, hey, this is what I've noticed, that's happening lately. And that could be easily shared in the messages as Alex showed us today. It doesn't even have to be typed out. It could be an audio, just casually sharing what's been going on or how the kid has maybe behaved differently this week. Quick updates don't have to be formal posts.
Yeah, I really like this one too because it speaks to what I spoke about earlier. A lot of parents who have either grown up in cultures, and most of us have,
Hmm.
where grades were what we looked for. We didn't, look at anything else. And I think, if you want to have engagement with families, helping them understand what to look out for. So give them some ideas. So I love this where you said, this is what I've noticed with your child. And this can start that conversation and move beyond grades. And, we're talking probably at a primary level here, but I work with students and families in late high school when they are starting to think about their next steps after high school. And when they haven't been in the practice, parents as well as students, in talking about these kinds of things, it does take a lot more time later on when they are writing their essays for university applications and they're trying to reflect on experiences and they haven't had a chance to do that or encouraged to do that. So starting early this way is going to reap so many benefits later on. Yeah, that's great, Natalie. Looking at behavior and performance and helping families. know what to look out for and have those kinds of conversations. I'll actually give an example that just came up recently with my own daughter, who's 9.5. And I didn't do it the way I just explained it. I actually sat with her across the table to have this conversation. And I think we could have had it, there could have been a better conversation if we did it somewhere else. But I did remember end of year kind of project that she did at school, or not a project, but they in grade 3, they came up with like the teacher asked them, the students, to write about or reflect on the year. And she asked them some questions, and there was a book that they made, and each page had something. And one of the pages, asked, what are 3 words that would describe yourself? And so she had put something like determined, brave, and kind. And so then I took one of those, determined, and I asked her, I said, so can you like share an example of when you were determined, right? And first of all, this was like we're in the summer. She's like wondering, it was why she asked me this question. So she couldn't really answer, but I kind of helped her. And I said, there are many examples I've seen when you've been determined. And so I gave her a very specific example. And I said, recently she wanted to learn how to do French braids in her hair. Or more specifically, she wanted me to learn how to do French braids in her hair. And I really tried. I've done a lot of hard things in my life, but doing French braids in a kid's hair is one of the hardest things for me to do. And I really tried. I worked on it. She gave me a Barbie doll to work on. I did it, and I thought I could do it in her hair, and it just didn't work very well. It took me a long time. And so what she decided, whether it was conscious or not, was she was probably thinking, mom is useless. She's never gonna do this for me. She's gonna do my hair for me. So she decided to watch some videos, some YouTube videos and shorts on, yeah, but she decided, she watched some videos, and she then started, this was in the summer, this summer right now. She goes to out of school care and started
Oh, yeah.
doing
Oh, Tasneem, I think you're cutting in and out.
girl in, because before you're on yourself, you got it. She had girl with hair. Sorry. Okay, let's see.
Oh no, we missed all of that, Tasneem. Are you still with
So,
us?
oh, I'm frozen. I can hear me?
Yes, you're back.
Oh, you want to hear how the story ends?
We
I
missed
love
all of
this.
that. I feel like the juicy parts were at the end.
Oh no. What part did I end at? Then I'll
We
continue.
heard YouTube Shorts, I think, where you watched
Yep.
some
Okay.
videos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. And then she goes to out of school care in the summer. So she ended up doing braids for girls in out of school care. And so, they had all different textures of hair, lengths of hair. And she's been doing them. I remember walking home one day, and one of the parents that I saw said that his daughter, did not want to take off her shirt because she didn't want to spoil her hair. And now my daughter, it takes her literally 10 minutes to do her own hair. So after she
that's
did
amazing.
these girls' hair, now she does her own. Most of the pictures on my phone right now are the back of her head because she wants to see what it looks like. But the interesting thing is this Saturday, she's going to a birthday party of one of our neighbors. who comes to out of school care, the one who didn't want to take off her shirt because she didn't want to spoil it. And it's a spa birthday theme at her house. And my daughter is going to do braids on all of them, which
That's
is
amazing.
really
She'll have a
funny.
braid station.
Yeah. So, anyways, long story. But it came from that assignment or that project that they did in school in grade three, and I took one of those words that described her and gave her an example. And I kind of
Mhm.
talked it through with her because she
Yeah.
couldn't. She just did it. She just did it naturally for herself, but she didn't realize what she actually did. So there's my story.
That's an amazing notice, talk, sustain story because it maintained from the ignition, it maintained the fire of creation for her to take the lead actually on maybe she'll open a hairdressing salon and be famous for. That's amazing. Great story.
All right. I think we don't have any questions in the chat, so we can wrap things up. But if you have any lasting questions, please feel free to let us know.
Thank you very much, everyone. And so feel free to scan this QR code you see on the screen right now to have a chance for a $25 gift card win and share your feedback because we are all about constructive feedback for the new generation, but also for adults in every steps of life. Very important. So feel free. We are very happy to hear from you and feel free to follow us also on our social networks. Merci.
Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you again, Tasneem, for this really valuable session on family engagement and how to turn families into learning partners. Really excited to share this with all educators everywhere. Have a
You're
great day,
welcome.
everybody.
Bye.